Hi, I'm Dr. Jaban, and I want to talk a little bit about depression. Depression affects more than 300 million people in the world each year. That's more than 7% of the population dealing with depression. Why is depression so rampant throughout the world? It's one of the leading causes of disability in the United States, and it is very expensive for us to treat. And healthcare is a major topic right now in politics. So I wanted to get some information out about depression. Depression is multifaceted. It's brought on by things that happen to you in your life from an emotional standpoint, from a stress standpoint. So are you working too long? Are there too many things taking away from the life that you want to live? But they can also be affected by your health. So that's chemical depression, or that's digestive tract brought on depression, or maybe it's a lack of nutrients creating those depressions. And that's the side that I want to get into. So when patients walk into my office having depression and they don't seem to have something going on in their life that's either emotional trauma or stress, I start to look, first of all, let's talk about blood work. So let's look into that. And some things that I'm looking for is, do we have chronic levels of inflammation? Because inflammation in the brain equals depression. So one, let's check your C-reactive protein. Let's check your sedimentation rate. Let's check your homocysteine. So those are some tests that you should always have ran if you're dealing with depression. And if they're elevated, there's a likelihood if once you reduce those that you will feel less depressed. But what is bringing on tests creating inflammation? Some of the things that can bring on those inflammation tests are chemicals in our environment. So we've got to clean up our environment. We've got to clean out the closet, make sure that the foods are healthy, make sure that we're staying away from pesticides, make sure we're drinking filtered water. And then next, we've got to remove infections. Because when I deal with people that have Lyme disease, most of them are depressed. And they can be depressed because the neurotoxins that are produced by Lyme or produced by the parasites in their bodies, the co-infections, then that will cause the depression, the irritation to the brain, and that inflammation. So depression has to be looked at on all sides. And if we're cleaning out the body and making it well, then we got to go down to the gut where your neurotransmitters are made. Neurotransmitters are little molecules that when they get into your brain, they can create happiness, they can create excited, they can give you that vibrance for life. Other neurotransmitters help to slow you down and allow you to go to sleep. So since most of the neurotransmitters are affected by your gut health, we've got to make sure that your gut's doing well. So if you have digestive tract symptoms and depression, then I know that you need to focus in on those digestive tract symptoms. So some things that I will do for patients when they're dealing with depression is I start off with looking at their blood, and then I take a microscopic look at their blood and we see kind of what's floating around. Now, one thing that can lead to depression is fungus, so candida yeast. Have you looked at your tongue lately? Is it white when you wake up in the morning? When you spit, does it float, does it sink? There are some tests that just simply looking at your spit and water can give you an idea of what amount of candida you have. So gut health, emotional health, stress health, because if you're stressed out and you're adrenally fatigued, that will lead to increased cortisol and increased depression. Chemical health, making sure that the chemicals going into your body can be reduced and cleaned out. And then finally with depression, we've got to look at, are we getting enough nutrient? Because a lack of B vitamin or iron leads to types of anemias, which make you tired, and tiredness, lack of motivation for life, tends to make people feel more depressed. So if you're feeling depressed, look into some of these possibilities. If you need help, let me know. I'd be happy to give some advice.